Since this fight happened, I'm sure I've mentioned it to someone every single day. The RWS title fight between Yothin and Chaila. I'm 13-3 professional MMA fighter George Hardwick, and the reason I'm talking about this fight a lot is because of this, the inside calf kick. Yothin used it a lot. Yothin in the red and black trunks, and Chaila in the white and red trunks. Yothin, he's kind of like a Muay Cow, but fights more Muay for Muay style, so he was a knee clinch fighter, and he's a bit more of a technician now, slightly older, but he uses this inside calf kick a lot. We've got an open stance matchup, so opposite stance, Chaila there in the white trunks using the left kick quite a lot, and Yothin's going to mix his right kick, and he tends to mix it up to two levels, either really low, just below the shin, or just like that, up towards the wrist. Kicking at the wrist, it's very hard to counter those kicks at the wrist, and it's still a very clean score in Muay Thai, plus, you know, it does a bit more damage. It's the least padded bit. There he goes, inside kick to the calf, and you can see how much it off-balances Chaila. So as Chaila resets his stance, it kind of makes him telegraph his own strike back a little bit more, or kind of makes him telegraph his own left kick a little bit more. There's that right kick again, a little bit of a cross kick from Chaila. Chaila uses the left hand right hook as a counter a lot of times, but Yothin really good at getting back behind it, defending with his arms, and defending his point. The inside calf kick again, feints up, almost like feinting a check. You'll see a lot of Thais use this where they'll do a check. Oh, here's a nice little teep to off-balance Yothin as he goes for his right kick. But you'll see a lot of Thai fighters use the check as a feint. You know, you sometimes see boxers slip or parry as a feint, not waiting for it to come. Sometimes that check's a really good feint, especially before that teep up the middle. There's two calf kicks, really nice on the inside, and then he'll go up to the wrist. Chaila countering with a kick back to the back leg of Yothin. Yothin, really good. One of the things about that feint that makes it effective is you start to check out to the side, your opponent will often check out to the side, making that opening for that teep through the middle. There's the right kick, but it just falls short. A lot of the classic matchup in this open stance. What makes this inside calf kick slightly more effective, because a lot of Thai fighters turn their lead foot slightly out in their stance, so they can throw that rear kick nice and quick. Especially a lot of southpaw kickers, Muay Thai fighters that like to use that left kick. So the right toes on that lead foot are turned slightly out. Here we see a little bit of a clinch exchange. Really, really good head position from Yothin. And you can see him burying his head, and you can see him locking wrist to wrist. Wrist to wrist is a really good grip, and especially in boxing gloves, you kind of have to do it in boxing gloves, and he sneaks his knees in. Really good scores in the clinch from Yothin in the black trunks. Again, a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of hand fighting, just light hand fighting, touching, and you can see how off balance Yothin is taken each time. There he times a nice right hand counter because Yothin has taken quite big steps into the kick. Chaila timing a nice right hook counter, a sweeping right hook, really good counter option for the southpaw fighter, and he uses that right hook pivot again. You know, some people call it a hook swing, a hook spin even, but it's a counter to that back leg. And there you can see Yothin keeping that lead hand up, not just the lead hand, but the lead forearm to guard against that hook. First round in the books, which went to Yothin with the open scoring. RWS has open scoring. See the massive splash of sweat coming off of that shin on that inside calf kick. Here we see the left kick coming from Chaila, and as he recovers his stance off that second left kick, his foot is rooted to the floor, so he can really get the penetration on that inside calf kick, can Yothin, and then he goes back up, kicking the wrist. Very hard to counter those kicks to the wrist. There was a video recently of John Charles Skarbowski teaching someone to kick in the wrist, and then we see this clinch work from Yothin. Yothin generally, he's having his right underhook a lot of the time. He likes a right underhook with his right elbow to almost turn it up towards the sky to really expose that space for the right knee and help him to circle. You want to make your angles with your boxing, you know, striking, move around the corner. The same angles work in the clinch. You want to circle with it. You don't want to stay on the spot. Nice inside tie on the left hand from Chaila there, but just short knees. When they lock up body to body, that's when the refs are really on the trigger finger, on the trigger to break them from the clinch. When the chests get really close, when the hips get really close, because there's no room for those kicks. There's protecting the point really well is Yothin there. And he can do that because he doesn't land on his heel after the right kick. He lands on his toe, so he's quick to check. Kind of similar there. There, you'll see these rhythms where they go 1, 2 into the calf and then up to the wrist. Or go 1, 2 up to the wrist, then into the calf. This one really off balances Chaila. And Chaila's going to sweep with the right hook to get his stance back and then hit the left straight through the middle, which was a really nice counter. It worked because you know, he was off balance, and you shouldn't really be throwing those punches off balance, but he used the right hook, more of a sweeping action with the lead hand to put Yothin into the path of his left straight and get his own stance back at the same time. But those inside calf kicks were racking up. There was a photo from after the fight of Chaila's calf really swole up on the inside. There's another kick at that wrist level, very hard to counter. There's a double kick. As he kicks, you know, Chaila tries to extend with his left straight, but he's reaching too far because his stance is too wide, and that's a big score. Whenever a kick fits under the elbow like that and hits across the ribs, it's a really good score. There you can see Yothin using that right underhook and spinning. It makes it difficult for the opponent to knee, and it gets your angle for your own knee. And again, they end up chest to chest, hip to hip, tip to tip, and, you know, refs don't generally see that. Sometimes they'll hold the clinch a lot longer or hold the clinch a lot shorter, and you'll be like, why does the ref break them so quickly? Or why isn't the ref breaking them up? If the hips are further away, you know, like they're locked at the arms, they've got space for a good knee, so they won't break it straight away. There's a kick into the wrist. Chaila looking for the counter, but the counter isn't that solid. You know, he does manage to scuff the gloves of Yothin, but the counter's not going to be that solid if you've been kicked in the thinnest part of your wrist. There was a much nicer counter timing it as, you know, Yothin stepped in on that right inside calf kick. They're locked up, very close, so they can't really get too much power on the knees, and the ref is going to break them nice and quick. I'm going to take a swig of this tea. What tea is it? It's the Jaffa Cake flavoured biscuit tea from Aldi. Don't add milk to it. If you don't add milk, it's just a really nice Empress Grey. There he pummels his left hand in, you know, pummeling one at a time. He tends to pummel his left hand in and use his right arm as an underhook, flaring that right elbow up so his opponents can't drop their weight too much on it. Another swig of tea. Perfect temperature. And there's another kick at the wrist. And Chaila not really landing a clean scoring counter left hand at the end of the round. There's that inside calf kick again. Timing the step. If you've just stepped onto that leg, there's no way you're picking it up to check, and there's no way you're bringing it back to retract. Another calf kick. Yothin did a really good job of keeping his hands in good position, or even, you know, tucking his chin, taking it on the top of his head if he have to, when Chaila was firing back with a left straight. Right arm underhook from Yothin, and he always spins towards that underhook. Breaking them up again. A lot of the classic open stance matchups. You know, on the open scoring, Yothin won the first 2 rounds, so Chaila's starting to press forward. It's difficult once you end up 2 rounds in the hole. And there's an adjustment to Chaila's hook spin. Yothin goes in behind his lead forearm and then hits with a right up elbow, and it really off balances Chaila. It's a really good adjustment, is that up elbow to the right hook counter of Chaila, and a little slip on the sponsorship logos. Sponsorship logos can tend to be a little bit more slippy than the rest of the canvas. You know, they're not like designed into the canvas. They're kind of laid on top, so they can get a bit slippy, especially if you've just been teeping someone. Lots of sweat, lots of Thai oil, lots of Vaseline in Muay Thai. You can put it in a lot of places that you can't in an MMA fight. There's a left kick and a counter right kick from Yothin. He's looking for that inside calf kick as well, and happier to get into some longer clinch exchanges. There were only a few longer clinch exchanges, and they were really nice in this fight. You can see the ref lets it go on a bit longer whenever Yothin can get the head position, but when they end up like this, like an MMA over-under, you know, he doesn't let them go on that long because they can't land good knees. There's that right kick up into the wrist, and it's always going to be a more solid score with Thai biased judges. That right kick's always going to be a bigger score, whereas if we were in K1 or Glory, something like this, they might look at the left straight as an equal score or greater score. Another swig of the Jaffa Cake biscuit tea. You can see how Yothin gets behind his right shoulder after that right kick to defend the left straight. He's always ready to protect his point. He's looking for that up elbow again, defending the right hook whilst putting his own right up elbow into the target. There's a nice little counter. That time Chaila just kind of rode the calf kick and allowed it to, you know, allowed his stance to widen into his own left kick. Really nice adjustment there. There Yothin feints a right body kick and then goes to the calf, using the teep to protect his points. Lots of methods of protecting the point from Yothin. Yothin getting really good head position and really good right underhook almost all the time in these clinch exchanges. He's a beast at getting that right underhook. You know, the left arm could be reciprocating, could be locking over so he doesn't take any elbows off the other arm, and the right arm is jammed up on that underhook so he can expose Chaila's body for the knee. There's a right low kick as Chaila throws a left body kick. Answers back with his own right body kick. Sometimes he skips into it. Now that he's thrown the up elbow, he can skip into that right kick and cover a bit more distance more comfortably, because, Chaila's going to be hesitant on throwing that right hook spin counter back, because he's taken an up elbow a few times. There's that kick up into the wrist level, end of round 3. Open scoring had Yothin up by 3 rounds at this point. So Chaila's going to pressure in, and it ends up being a good round for Chaila. He gets this plum clinch. You don't normally see the plum clinch held like this for any long periods, but Chaila does a really good job of getting it. So Yothin is going to pummel in one side, and there he's fixed it. He keeps his right arm jammed up to jam the elbow up of Chaila, and then he's going to work his left arm in. Kind of uses a little elbow block to deflect a little bit of the damage. Boom. And he's on his toes, pushing off of that right toe so he can turn Chaila to the side and expose him for a right knee. That was a really good passage of clinch from Chaila, but a really good reversal by Yothin. Nice tee. So at this nice neutral range, a little bit of just tie bounce off the lead leg. There's that interplay between the inside calf and the left straight. The Chaila trying to land his left straight, and Yothin using his right kick. It's kind of those two weapons against each other, bouncing the lead leg. Chaila's down 3 rounds, so he's putting a little bit more heat onto everything. He's doing double underhooks. Refs don't let it play out as much from that position, because there's just not that much damage they can do from that position. There's no real elbows and there's no real powerful knees, so they break them nice and quick. There's a calf kick and a nice little counter from Chaila. So we'll break this down. Boom, calf kick. Chaila's thrown kind of arm punches because his base is not underneath him. Kick into the wrist, and this time, because that knee travels past the target, Chaila's knocked way off course with his left straight and completely misses it. And he's looking for that right hook as well. It's going to be hard to base on that leg, not just because of the damage, but because you're going to be second guessing every time you put that right foot down onto the floor. You don't want to get your stance completely knocked away. Those low kicks, they're scored more equally now compared to older school Thai body kick scoring. But, if your stance is getting knocked out by that low kick, if your stance is getting knocked away, it's showing effect. So it will score still. Like that one, starting to make the leg ride from Chaila, starting to open up his stance for follow-up shots, and it's limiting Chaila's ability to throw back. There, he's having to let the leg ride instead of basing onto it. In terms of taking a calf kick, probably taking a calf kick's the opposite of absorbing a kick to the quad. Taking a calf kick, you probably do want to let it ride. The ones that knock you off balance probably don't damage you as much as the ones where your feet are planted into the floor and there's nowhere for that impact to go. There, he's letting his leg ride up. Nick Diaz versus Cyborg style, almost. Boom. So he's bouncing this leg a lot more. We see Yothin on the front foot because he feels like he's hurt that calf and he's doing a lot of damage to it. Off of that left kick from Chaila, because that right foot's going to be stuck on the floor when Chaila goes to the body or up high with that left kick. That right foot's going to be stuck on the floor, so he's got no ability to counter there. He's got no ability to check, move that leg. And in close, one good scoring knee from Yothin, swinging it out and around and then bringing it in. I love a good swing knee. One of the only ways you can get an effective knee from that close. Looking for the teep is Chaila. But the more he moves his right leg from one position to another, the less set he's going to be able to defend it. There's a lovely little block with the forearm by Yothin on that big swinging left hand from Chaila. Boom, digging to the body is Yothin, because as Chaila gets his back to the ropes, the stance squares up. Naturally, even in a ring where you can put your foot underneath the ropes, as your back goes to the ropes, your stance is going to square up and you're going to open up for straight shots to the body. Another inside calf kick from Yothin, and Chaila's going to try and push up the pace, increase the pace, use that sweeping right hook into the power left straight, but it's hard to develop that when the calf has already been a bit nullified. And there we can see that angle made from Yothin. He didn't manage to get a really good knee, but we see him hike that right underhook up, and if he can get the right knee in, but he's always making that angle. Really good clinches. They tend to make the angle. They're not clinching right in front of people. They're moving their feet as much as they are fighting the grips. There's this interplay between moving the feet, fighting the grip, and getting in a good position to knee. There's a right straight from Yothin. Boom. He gets his right forearm up nice and high when he's throwing that calf kick to deflect the left straight of Chaila and manage to kick through the target. Nice teep from Chaila, getting busy off of the lead leg, which shows the level of conditioning to take that many inside low kicks. Lovely face push there from Yothin making space for the knee. You know, that's a really strong position, getting the wrist over the face. And a lot of Thai coaches, when they're teaching that push of the face, they're not teaching you to just push the head or push the jaw. They control them by the nose. They're almost gripping through their glove, gripping the nose, and that gives them the best control. And it's also going to disrupt the breathing. Boom. Nice left straight from Chaila because he kind of got into his position and then threw it. Rather, I'm on flight mode. How's notifications coming up? But anyway, he got into his stance, got into the right position, then threw it instead of having a step on it, which Yothin could time. Good left kick across the arms. See, Chaila was using that same left kick. See, he kicks up one into the wrist. The next one, he looks up a bit high and kicks under the elbow. So that advantage of that wrist kick is if you do it a few times, you know, the arm's going to raise, and then you can dig the next one underneath the elbow. You know, 4 rounds up is Yothin at this point by the open scoring, RWS with the open scoring. He actually kicks the outside calf a few times in this round. You know, if you've been kicking the inside, someone's going to turn the foot in, and then it opens up the other side. Left straight from Chaila, trying to line up even, a left straight. Throws his own inside calf kick there, which could have been a good idea to throw earlier in the fight. You know, if something's being used well against you, mix it in yourself. And this is more to the quad, but it's still effective. You don't want to give away a full range or a full technique. A lot of the times, if someone's throwing a good low kick at you, don't think he's got a good low kick, I can't low kick with him. If you're throwing your own low kick, it's going to make it harder for him to low kick back because he's going to have to worry about picking his lead leg up rather than using that lead leg to step on and generate power into his own kick. Another teeps to the hip. Really good effective teep from Chaila and another kick at that wrist level. I was talking about this in the Ian Gary versus Carlos Pratos fight. Jean-Charles Skarbowski talks about this. There's a lot of advantage to kicking at that wrist level. Really good fight. If you want to see more breakdowns, let me know who I should break down next. Get in the comments, subscribe, all this other stuff. Use code HARD10 at RevGear for the best MMA equipment. Check out the Patreon. Have a nice day. Eat a full tin of Heinz Gel Freezy beans.